What if the presentation you've perfected actually misses the audience sitting right in front of you? So on today's show, we explore what it really takes to connect when presenting to Latino communities and why assumptions and one-size-fits-all approaches can quietly undermine the impact of your message. And we've got a guest speaker who works at helping leaders build credibility with diverse audiences, where connecting with your audience isn't optional, it's everything. You ready? Let's go. Today's guest, Andrea Lievano, is the author of Visibilidad Infinita. She's a PR and sales strategist, founder of PR Para Todos, which is present in 13 or more countries, and she's been honored by the mayor of Miami for empowering the Latino community. I'm thrilled to have her here. I'm going to let her take it from here and tell you about her journey. I want to welcome you to the show, Andrea. Thanks for letting me muscle my way through that last name of yours, and tell us a little bit about your journey.
Hi, Rob. Hi, everyone. I'm really, really happy to be here. Thank you for the invitation. As you already told the viewers, I am Andrea Lievano. My last name is very Latino, so it's very difficult, but you did it really, really well. I'm a PR and reputation strategist since the last 16 years. I work with CEOs and C-levels, helping them with the reputations and with companies around the Americas, from Argentina to Mexico, and now we are in the US, helping the Latino market get in, and the US market understand how Latinos work, because we think totally different.
Well, I learned that in the first 5 minutes of just meeting you. So we're going to uncover that and I want to start there because I think most speakers, when they think about a Latino audience, they think of it as sort of a single group. And I guess out of the gate, I want to know, what do you think most of us misunderstand? Right as we're getting started about working with Latino groups and this one size fits all.
You have some slang in New York and it's different from LA and it's different than Miami and it's different in Ohio. Latinos are the same. You are all in the US, but for Latinos it's different. Mexicans speak and refer to other Latinos differently. Argentinians have another communication skills. Colombians, I'm Colombian, and Colombians are really tender. But if you go to negotiate with a Chileno from Chile, it's different because they're not that warm and they're like, okay, we are all warm-blooded, but we are not all negotiators, or we are not all it's different to sell from an Argentinian to a Colombian to a Mexican. It's different.
Right. Right. And I'm glad you're telling us that because, I think one of the mistakes we make is, I'm speaking like a classic American here. We believe that the way we negotiate is not only the right way to negotiate, but if that somebody does it a different way, they're doing it incorrectly. Okay. And it's a bit of a stubbornness we have to get out of our system. And if for anybody listening, we'll move off negotiation in a moment, but just so you know, you can be stubborn all you want, but you're going to get your clock cleaned in the negotiation because they define things differently. And I'm not sure the Latinos, I've communicated with Asian countries, different countries where certain things have happened initially where I thought, oh, I'm not sure that's ethical. No, that's my definition of ethics. So maybe give me an example of one where we would think, if we're negotiating and somebody might be presenting an idea or a thought and we completely misinterpret it because we're only thinking about the way we interpret information.
That's a great question, Rob. I think the easiest way to understand it is you guys are super straight with the time. the meeting starts at 5, and at 5:15 it's over, or at 5:30. It's like when you go to a party, you invite people from 7 to 9, and at 9 o'clock everybody's out. Latinos, and this is every Latino from Argentina to Mexico, we are all the same. We need to, as I told you before, we are warm blooded, so we need to connect before we start the meeting. Like we need that 5 minutes of, hey Rob, how are you? I'm Andrea. I'm from Colombia. Where are you from? Like this, like to find something that we can relate, so we can trust. Because most of our business, and I think all business are based on trust, but Latinos are really, because we are third world countries, so we believe in the miracle of everybody is telling the truth, and it's not always like that. But we need to trust. That's the real reason. And the easiest way to understand it is that, like, if you go to a Latino party, you can get there. You're gonna get invited at 7, but nobody's waiting you at 7. If you arrive at 7, it's like, why are you so early?
Yeah.
And you're like, it's 7. You told me 7. And it's like, no, no. The party is going to start at 7:38. And you're like, okay. And then at 9, you're going to be like, hi, thank you for everything. And everybody is going to be like, no, this is just getting started. Wait, this is going to be like forever. And, I, and it's difficult for people who aren't Latinos to understand that. Like
Right.
we have an arrival time. We don't have a getting out
You don't have
time.
a departure time. And you're absolutely right because again, we Americans will typically think if someone's late, it's rude. And I know I'll keep the party aside because my wife, at least, kind of forces me. We're going to be a little bit late. It's all right. We can be late. But for a business meeting, to me, I'm looking across the table and I'm thinking, that was rude that you came in late to the meeting. Whereas on the other side of the table, they're thinking, I may have done that to socially say hello to you and let you know that I wanted to, that this was a trust move by me. So again, two ships kind of crossing in the night there. Now, this is not a
I'm gonna
negotiation show.
at a
Go ahead.
meet at a business meeting, most of us arrive at time, and it should be arriving at time. Like, but the meeting is not gonna end. You're right. It's different for a social event. It's different. But when we're talking about business, the Latinos are gonna be there at the time they say the meeting starts. But most of us, not everyone, most of us, uh, could we have, like, if the meeting is 15 minutes, we have an hour just in case we chat a little bit, like just in case we have like this 15-30 minutes extra for the extra talk.
Right, right. We refer. Have you ever heard of the term schmoozing?
Yeah.
Okay. That's sort of our term for it. And there are different parts of the country. Like you go to New York, for instance. I've done many seminars there. They almost never start on time. First few years, I was sort of twitching, going, I don't understand. I'm ready. Where is everyone? It would have been rude to that audience to make a big deal out of it. That is them. Now, at the same time, I have certain audiences in the Midwest that are very upset if we don't finish on time. The New York audience, not necessarily as concerned. So, again, there are little moves around the US that I've had to learn because what do? I interpret everything as, well, I learned it in Maryland this way, which makes my way right. And that's not the way it works in this world, particularly if you're negotiating. All right, let's move to audiences a little bit. Okay, so sometimes different audience. I'm sure that Latino audiences differ from a classic American audience. I'm on stage now, and I've been invited to speak in some another country. What are maybe one or two things I should keep in mind that would be different from that audience, from the audience I'm typically seeing in the U.S.?
We'll try to connect with humor. Latinos love laughing. Latinos love dancing. Latinos love, we love, like, life. I know you guys do too, but Latinos are really excited and really happy people. All of us. So what I would do is like tell a personal, a, something personal that is fun. That is the easiest way to get to, if you're a speaker, to open up to a Latino, or do the silly dance. I don't know, something that people can like at first it starts like, this is so fun. This guy's gonna be great.
Right, right. Well, no, you're helping me out because I think sometimes I'm taking notes. And one of the notes I just took down was, okay, slow down up front. Sometimes we want to rush right in. Here's who I am. Here's what we're going to talk about. Now let's talk about it. And what I'm getting from you is maybe a little story of my trip in on the plane. And the first thing that I maybe if I'm working in a different country, and I don't mean in an unauthentic way, but something that touched me perhaps about my visit so far, seeing something maybe that I can connect with that audience. In other words, not telling an American story. When I was at the Statue of Liberty, well, we're not at, I noticed in one of your markets, and then sort of finish my story, but something along that line. Um, would that, would you recommend, as long as I can do it in an authentic way, not in a, you know, in a way that feels less than real? Uh, Maybe that would be something I could slow down a little bit and connect up front.
You can tell a story at the airport or at the airplane or at the hotel or with the cab driver. Like, as I told you at the beginning, like we are really driven into business and we like business done, but the way we do business is more warmly, it's more warm. And that's one of our faculties. I think is good because we negotiate by trust.
Right,
Um, and if you tell, like, if you get, and if you go to like every Latino country, you're going to have some story before you get on stage, some
right,
story, or your cab driver, or your hotel, or in the airport, because most of the bizarre things happen in Latin America. Like it's that, like you can't believe it until you live it,
right.
and because we are from there, we know that this could happen. Like it's true. I
Yep.
know.
Right. And we're going to release this on audio and video. For those of you who are listening, you're going to love this. For those of you who are watching, you're really going to love it because I'm telling you, your hands are flailing all over the place. And I don't and I think I'd be an honorary member of your society because I'm a flailer too. But I am noticing lots of movement with your hands and your face and your body. And again, welcome to the community. I would think that if I were going to take the stage, and I'd like to try and mirror my audience, and again, in an authentic manner, but I'm not so sure I'd have my hands in my pockets. If you're representing my audience right now, and I think you are. How about culturally? I went to Egypt once, and I went about 5 or 6 times. I learned after the first that my first analogy was, it's like swinging a golf club, ladies and gentlemen. When you're taking the golf club back, and I looked at my audience and I realized I don't even know if there's a golf course in this country. And if there are, I could probably count them on one or two hands. I have to be more culturally sensitive to even the examples I use. So I moved to their football. Immediately they could connect. I'm trying to line up the shot. I have to turn my hips. Now they're with me. So some cultural homework. Maybe, I know this is a big question, but I think we're in agreement. I better do it. What would be some thoughts along that line to help out somebody who might be going on a trip to South America and needs to study up a little bit? What would be your advice?
My advice would be start learning about the sports on each country because Venezuela it's very about baseball. They just
Oh
won the
yeah.
World Cup.
Oh yeah.
Colombia is not that into it, but we have it, but we're not that into it. Argentina is very polarized. Uh, all countries have golf. Colombia is very soccer, but well, we are all soccer fans.
Right.
Like we all, and you can. Now it's coming the World Cup. and it's gonna be in the US, Mexico, and Canada. So that's a real good theme you could use. Like
Right.
understanding their culture, understanding their music, because it's different from Brazil, that in Colombia, that in Argentina. Understand like like the idols, they like we have Shakira and we have Pio Valderrama and Falcao, and in Argentina or in Spain they have, each country has the, like in the US you have every goat in in every sport is the same here. Like try to find out so you can have that conversation and connect with the people. If you, as a person from the United States, come to a stage in any country, Mexico or Colombia, whatever, and you talk about their fan, like their sports fan or their musical fan or whatever, they're gonna be like, hey, this guy did the homework.
Right.
That's
Right.
so good. And they're going to be happy just because you did the homework. Nobody does the homework. And as you say, they use like Tiger Woods. Okay, don't talk about Tiger Woods. Talk about Camilo. What's the name of this guy? Camilo Villegas. That's
Right.
our golfer.
Right.
So if you talk about Tiger Woods, it's like, okay, he's the best of the best. I know you're talking about Tiger Woods, but what if you compare Woods with Camilo Villegas? That's our golfer. And it's gonna be like, oh my God, this guy did the homework.
Right.
And we're gonna love you
Right.
instantly.
To your point,
Mhm.
the first time, I told you I botched my first Cairo trip, but one thing I got right was when I landed, everyone was hitting car horns, car horns, car horns. And I said to the driver, "What's with the car horns?" And they said, "Egypt just made the round of 16 in the World Cup, and everybody's very excited." And so when you notice I keep slipping in the word authentic, I don't need to be a subject matter expert on Egypt's team, but to politely say, "Hey," I even say, I asked why horns. Now I know. Congratulations. That's all I needed, and I
Eh,
stayed within my lane doing it. You know what I mean? I think that's the key here. We don't have to be an expert; just have to know what we're talking about.
Totally. And it has to be, as you told me, it has to be natural. It
Right.
can't be forced. It
Right.
has to be natural.
Yeah. All right. Let's drop back because I think one of the themes that I'm hearing from you, my job is to pick out themes. And I'll tell you a theme with you that I'm getting: trust. Trust. Really important to trust. Okay. Well, I think trust can be built or broken early in a presentation when speaking to an audience. So let's drop back. If I come out humorous or if I say something that's meaningful, I think I'm warming the audience up. I don't know if I've necessarily got them to trust me yet. I know this is tough, but think of a presenter. If you were coaching me and I were going out there, what would you tell me in terms of trying to establish trust? And I'm going to help you for a second. If I were doing that with you on a US audience, I would say don't rush it. Don't force it. Uh, be aware of it, but sometimes I think people go a little quickly. All right. So there's an America. That's my version of it here. How about your version of it? If now you're coaching me, what do I need to know?
I think you need to know it's true. Yeah, don't rush it. And use what we spoke at the first time we talked about, the bragging rights. You remember? Like
Yeah.
you have to show your badges. Like I come from this university or from this client or from this background. Oh, I have this baggage. So people can understand why they should trust you and not the other guy. Because think of it, like if I go to a meeting or whatever, or if I'm at you're on a scene and you're selling me something or you're telling me something, if you rush it, I'm gonna be like, oh no, this guy's gonna say wants to sell me, bye. But if you start with like something about my country, like that's nice, he did the job. Second, you start telling me your bragging rights, why I should trust you, why I as a Latina should trust a person from the United States to coach me for a speaker. And then when you tell me like, no, I prepare, I'm sorry for what I'm gonna say, but if you tell me I prepare already 1,000 speakers, I'm gonna be like, wow, oh my God, this guy knows what he's doing. Maybe he could be my coach.
Right.
And then you tell me between these speakers is, I don't know, a Colombian or a Latino speaker or a really famous, worldwide speaker. It's gonna, oh, I want to work with him
Right.
instantly
Right.
because he already approached to my Latino heart. So he's one of us. He already coached 1,000 people, and now he's telling me between these 1,000 or 10,000 people, he has one of my idols. I want to work with him.
Right.
That's like the road I will take, or I recommend to take with the Latinos.
Right. Okay. Really a great point. So, but I'm going to go a little deeper for a second. So, again, in the US, and here's what that's why I love this conversation, because I'm going to tell you here, and I'm never telling you because it's right. I'm telling you it's the way I'm trained. Okay. Here, I actually ease up on my credentials a little bit because sometimes an American audience will see that as a little bit showing off, a little bit of bragging. They want, and it depends. It's not a perfect science, but there's a mixture of humility, of being humble. We kind of walk this little thin line. I want to tell you some, but not too much. And because I want them to be able to connect with me, and not see me above them. So that's my thinking. Is it the same, or those credentials really do carry a lot of weight, and don't worry about the humility quite yet? If I've got that right.
I think it's the same. We have a saying. I'm gonna say it in Spanish and then I'm gonna say it in
Hmm.
English because for people who are hearing us in Spanish are gonna feel like their grandmother is talking to their ear. Dime de qué presumes y te diré de qué careces. Tell me about what you brag and I'll tell you what you're missing. That's we as Latinos, we are raised with that sentence since we are born till we are adults. Every time our abuelitas, our grandmothers tell, or our mothers, or our fathers, or our sisters, or our friends are like, oh no, you're bragging too much. But now we are like empowering and saying, like, no, wait, we're Latinos, we're really proud of who we are. We are always gonna be humble because we are third world countries, and that's the truth. We are not a world, I don't know how you say it in English, like a potencia mundial. We are not the first, like the US or Europe. We are poor countries. It's the
Right.
truth.
Right.
So as soon as we start bragging, but always with humility,
Okay.
always like knowing where you came from, never forgetting who you were and where you're going, but
Yeah.
always remembering that your roots come from that. So if you are a speaker from the US that come to any Latino country, or you're making a webinar, you should brag, but always with the, like you're saying, like with the humanity
Right.
besides what that's it's not bragging when it's based on accomplishments.
Right. I think I got it solved. And you tell me if I've got it right. Because I think we're more similar than we give ourselves credit for, you know? Um, so I'll tell you the way I do it, and I think it sounds like it might work there. Uh, I think that we absolutely, particularly early, we can't say, hi, well, nice to meet you all. Let me tell you about my biggest failure in life. That's not the way I want to open a presentation. But during the presentation, there's a mixture even in this country, meaning I don't want to keep telling you about all my successes. I want to get you on board, let you know who I am. And then at another time, might be 10 minutes from now, mention, that I don't always hit home runs. I'll tell you a time where I tried such, it didn't work. In other words, just like making up a recipe, right? Let's sprinkle in, there comes the humility. Not, we'll put that in the mix too. Not right out of the gate, not the first sentence, but in our mind, let's have spots where we can also, we're taking and giving and taking, a little bit of a mixture. Would that make you comfortable if I were speaking in your country?
Yes, totally.
Yeah,
Totally, because you are validating yourself as you come. At first, I have to trust you, as I told you before.
right.
At first, I have to know I'm with an expert. Then you're gonna be like, oh, he makes mistakes like I do. And I think that's in every. I don't think it's not about Latinos or US or Europeans. I think every person in the world
Yeah,
has that journey.
right, right. Yeah, it's I'll tell you a very fast story. The first book I ever wrote, in my preface, in the first page, I told this very funny story, I thought, and it's a good story. I won't tell the whole story, but basically, this was in the early '90s when you had a paper ticket for an airplane, and I got on the wrong plane, and nobody caught it. And I missed my flight, and I was almost missed my seminar, but I did this and I caught that, and it was a wild, harrowing story. And I told it because I wanted to set the book up with, this is the world of the professional speaker. Sometimes it gets crazy. And the New York editor, in a very heavy New York accent, said, "Listen, I'm 2 pages in, reading a book about somebody who's going to teach me about presenting. And all I know after 2 pages is this, for the pardon this word, but this was the word she used. This schmuck doesn't even know how to get on the right airplane. Why am I going to listen to him?" So, and she was right. So, like what we're talking about, I decided, good story. Let's save it a little bit further for the book and come out with a good story where I did very well in front of an audience. It's early. So, that was my lesson there.
Totally, totally agree.
Uh,
Mhm.
all right. We're coming down the home stretch. Some presenters, I think, they worry about getting things wrong. They get nervous. They want to play it safe. What would you tell? And I don't, we get that, but I'm going to let you speak on this one, and I'm going to go second. What would you tell? We're both coaching the same client now, who's a little bit nervous and doesn't want to get it wrong, prefer to play it safe, is going to stay in their own lane, so to speak, and come to a country out of the U.S. and speak. What would you tell them? And then I'll tell them what I tell them. Okay, you go first.
I will tell them success is before success is after fear. That's what I will tell him. Like, you have to be, if you play it safe, most of the time you're gonna be boring.
Right,
And if you're boring, nobody's gonna wanna listen to you. After 15 seconds, they're gonna be on Instagram or in TikTok, or they're gonna leave the room, and you're gonna feel bad. And that's gonna be horrible for your self-esteem. Well,
right,
it would be for me. Like,
right, right.
if you see people living and living, you'll be like, oh my God,
Yeah,
something's wrong.
not a good sign.
So I don't. I wouldn't play it safe. I would, and as I said before, I think success is after fear. So just be yourself. Do your investigation about the world, the place you're going. If you're going to Colombia, for example, that is my, as I told you, my birth country. You're going to La Costa, it's totally different if you're going to Bogota, and it's totally different if you're going to Pasto, or it's different if you're going to Cali, because we have the costeños, the paisas, the Latinos, and it's like the US. You have from New York, from the middle, from LA, from the West, and everybody speaks differently. So I will do the research also of the region I'm gonna be. Like,
Yeah.
if you're gonna be in La Costa, you could be more funny. If you're gonna be in Bogota, you can't be that. You can be funny, but not that funny.
Right, right. Well, I'm going to echo pretty much everything you said. I think that I don't think clients are flying us to another country to play it safe. They're flying because they want to, the good, the bad, the ugly, as long as it's not rude or insensitive. Uh, we're supposed to go and open up and do our best. The theme of this show is trust. If we can create trust up front, even if we get it wrong, we have an audience that trusts us and appreciates the fact Rob didn't get that one right, but we know his heart's in the right place. Okay, it's different if we don't have trust. So, I keep a little saying, a sign over my coffee bar, and I would whisper into their ear, the saying goes, worry is the misuse of your imagination. And I think sometimes we misuse our imagination. I'm looking at you, you're looking at me. We got two eyes and nose, two ears. We've got skin. We're human beings. We're different, and yet we're not all that different. And I think, again, if we're sincere and humble, and we're there doing the best we can, we don't have to be obsessed with playing it safe. Playing it safe means fear and of the unknown. And I'm not going to fear the unknown. I think that's what I whisper in their ear.
What's the phrase? Worry is the
Worry is the misuse of your imagination. Isn't that beautiful?
love it.
And sometimes you can
Love
shorten
it.
it. Andre, when you're coaching somebody, and once they know that, you can shorten and when they're talking, go, uh-oh, I think you're misusing your imagination again. And people
Love
immediately get
it.
it, and they go, okay. So yes, of course we could try and be a little more creative. It might not work, but I think we're misusing our imagination when we know the building blocks are trust and humility. We'll be okay. We can come back from that. So, all right, good. All right, let's come down. Last question for you: if a presenter, and we got them, they're listening right now today, would and maybe they've got a trip coming up, and if they were going to walk away with one idea, one thought they need to remember, and we can't use trust because I've been hammering that for the last 30 minutes. What's one thing you'd say, hey, if you forget everything else you just heard, don't forget this. What would you tell
To get to the Latino community, I will tell them don't underestimate the Latinos
them? Hmm.
ever.
Right,
Don't underestimate us because people tend to do that. And now we are the fifth or the third economy in the world, the Latinos in the US.
right.
So we are making like 3 or 5 trillion a year. I was at Chase last week at a meeting, and they told, I think it's like 4.0 trillions in the US.
Yeah.
So
Pay
don't
attention.
underestimate. Pay attention. Pay
Well,
attention, the Latinos.
right.
We are working people. We are very like resilient. We are we have big hearts, and when we trust and love with all our hearts.
What is the Latin word for passionate? Passion.
Apasionado, pasión.
Because that's what I noticed. A lot of passion. And quite frankly, uh, I think that would turn itself into some great speakers. Because one of the things I'm working with, I don't care where you're from, is I need passion on that stage. I need people to look at you and say, I don't know Andre all that well, but boy, she really looks like she cares about this. Maybe I need to care about this a little bit more. Forget the words. We call that the tune, right? So that's one thing that I really appreciate, and I appreciate that about having you on the show as well. You weren't whispering and going, "You need to be a little more excited." you were plenty excited. How do people get a hold of you?
Hey, you can find me. It's difficult, my last name, but you can find me in any social media as Andrea Lievano. Like my last name is Lievano.
Yeah,
And you can find me on LinkedIn, on TikTok, on Instagram, or whatever. You can
yeah.
find me, and I'll answer any questions you have about reputation
She
or
does that.
working with the Latino markets.
Yep. She does that because I can tell you, I reached out on LinkedIn and that's how we got our conversation going. And I'm noticing a website, Andrea Lievano, um, same thing,
Dot
.com.
com.
Yep. So we can go there. We got LinkedIn. And I think this is a very important topic. And it's nice talking to somebody like you who really has a feel for both sides of the aisle here. You know how we were operating. Are you in Miami? Is that where you're at? Where are you?
I'm in Miami.
Right.
I'm
Okay.
based in Miami.
Right. So you got the U.S. side of this thing and the Latino side of this thing. So look, I got quiet a few times because I was busy writing notes. So I learned a few things, but I'm going to leave and then with my last thought, which is I'm smiling. Trust, very important in both societies. Okay. Passion. You're better at it, but very important in both societies. Some of the things we talked about, I think, what is that saying? The more we think we're different, the more we're the same. I'm not getting that right, but I like the way I said it anyway. I think there are more similarities than differences. And so let's just show up with our A game, do our homework, and go up there and don't be afraid. Just do your thing. Anyway, terrific, terrific meeting you. Thanks so much for being on the show. And I look forward to deploying some of the tactics that you taught me. Thank you so much.
Rob, thank you for the invitation. It was great.
It was really fun. Well, we'll do it again as well as we can next time, everybody. Until then, stay safe.
Thanks so much for listening. If you enjoyed today's show, please follow, rate, and review on Apple, Spotify, or wherever you listen. For more resources and to connect with Rob, visit thepresentationwhisperer.com.